So the artist then says, okay, stop. Now we're going to spend 2 hours doing exercises of looking and so forth. And they look at each other's, get the children to look at each other's faces, and they get rulers, and they measure the faces, and they really look at them and so forth. And at the end of 2 hours of doing all that, the artist says to everybody, okay, now draw a self-portrait again. And this is Riley 2 hours later. And he's thought a lot about faces on that stage. The next week, the artist comes back, and this time he has a small table mirror for every child in the class. And he says, okay, we're now going to draw self-portraits again. But this time you're going to be looking the whole time in the mirror at everything that you see. And they talk and they draw and they try again and they start and they run it out and so forth. And at the end of 2 hours, this is what Riley has drawn. Now, it's quite clever, but the important thing is this. I've worked in the arts most of my life, but I'm not an artist. And artists often say to me, can you draw? And I say, I can't draw. And artists say, actually, everyone can draw. Most people can't see. And that's what this exercise is about. It's getting people to see. And the arts are very, very important ways of making you learn how to use your senses properly, how to really see. Music helps you really hear. All those different art forms help you develop as a person and to really use them. Right from your earliest years, you should be doing this, because that is how you'll learn to see and hear and move and dance and so forth. It's right at the centre. But that's only the beginning, what we do. This is a project, and again, the sound's not working on this one. But I'll show you a bit of video anyway. In this project, we were working with 15-year-olds on biology. So they were doing a project for their biology exam on genetics. And it was on genetically transmitted diseases, those illnesses children inherit from their parents. And it's part of the national curriculum for biology for all 15-year-olds, so they have to study it. And one of the big problems, particularly with teenagers, is they don't understand the point of most of what they're learning. And then they get very disengaged from their learning, and they don't learn. So in this project, we put a theatre director and a playwright into work with a group of 15-year-olds on genetically transmitted diseases. And rather than study it in the traditional way, what we asked them to do was to write a play which they were going to perform about genetic diseases. And the play that they did, the children came up with all the ideas and scripted and so forth, and it opens with a video. And this is the opening of the video, except I don't think it's working either. No, that doesn't seem to have gone. But what happens, in a sense, is that they imagine a future in which, not very far, 15 years in the future, there's been a big economic crisis, and the government has introduced all these new laws. And one of the laws that they introduce is that all 16-year-olds have to have a blood test, and if they're found to be carrying genetic diseases, then they're sterilised. And the play is about a 16-year-old girl who has got pregnant without having had the blood test. The police have arrested her, and there is a court case. And the drama is the court case, with some of the children playing the judges, some of the children playing the lawyers, some of them playing the girl, witnesses and other things. And they debate very passionately the issues around genetic diseases. So the defence, the case is, it's everybody's right to be able to have children. You can't stop that. But the prosecution's case is, well, what about the rights of the child? Because the child's now going to be born with these diseases and so forth, and their rights have been infringed. What about the rights of the state? Somebody's going to have to look after the child. It's going to be very expensive and so on and so forth. And the children really get engaged in this, and they do a fantastic dramatic presentation in which they debate this, and there is a resolution to it. But the significant thing is that at the end of the year, when they all sat their exams, their marks on the genetic part of their exams was 15% higher, right across the class, than in all the other units that they did within that, because they were so engaged in it. The arts have got the capacity to create the engagement that young people need to really do the education and make it work. Now, if you're going to unlock creativity, then you actually have to give people responsibility. You can't tell them to be creative. You have to give them the space in which they can explore creativity. So schools that come into our programme, we always work with them to find projects they can give to the children to do, and it's that space that the children use to begin to explore their creativity. And this project, I'm now going to show you another example of this. So, it's a primary school in a part of England which has very high levels of unemployment. Many of the children's parents are unemployed, often their grandparents are unemployed, nobody in the family has worked for maybe 10, 15 years. And the children are very unengaged, and they're very passive at school. And the school wants to work with us to really get the children engaged. And we say, well, give them a project to do. Give them a project which is theirs. So the school had a project that they wanted to build an extension for a new classroom. And we said, okay, put the children in charge of that. Let them do it. The school's very nervous about this because this is a primary school. The children's aged 5 to 11. And they're going to build a new classroom. So the children all get together and they have a big debate about what they want. And some children want a beach. Because they thought that would make sense. Some want to build a castle. But the idea that they all go with is that they'll buy a passenger aeroplane and they'll have it delivered to the school and they'll turn the aeroplane into their new classroom. And each year in the school has a different responsibility. Year 6, which is the top year, has to get planning permission from the municipality, because if you buy a full-scale passenger aeroplane and you put it in your front yard, you need planning permission from the municipality. So they go and they talk to the officers and they talk to the elected members and they get planning permission. Year 5 have to find the aeroplane, so they go on eBay, and this is the aeroplane they find, which is an aeroplane which is coming out of service, and it was going for scrap, and so they buy it and they arrange to have it delivered to the school. And here is the aeroplane in the school when it's arrived. Year 4 had the responsibility of doing the interior design, because it just had the ordinary seats in and needed turning into a proper classroom. So they went onto the internet and they found the contact details of the man who designed the interior of David Beckham's jet. And they contact him and they say, look, we just bought this aeroplane, send a photograph, and we need to send it to a classroom. And he says, okay, he comes and he does it for free for them, because he's so amazed by the story. And this is the children now in their aeroplane, which they use as a classroom. What you can't see here is just down here, they have a big screen in the floor. And one of the things they use the classroom for is to do geography. And they all get in and they decide where to go, and they say, let's go to the Grand Canyon. And then they bring up Google Earth on the screen, and they go to the Grand Canyon, they look down on it, and then they have a big discussion